Welcome to Messy Liberation, the podcast that dives deep into feminism, business, and personal growth. I'm Becky Mollenkamp.
And I'm Taina Brown. Get ready for another messy conversation through the eyes of two intersectional feminist coaches.
Let's get messy. Hello, Taina. How are you today?
I'm all right. How are you?
Good. It's dreary here in St. Louis.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, we're entering that part of the, I love this time of year because I love cool, but it does, eventually the gray is a little, I like it, but it makes me want to curl up and not be productive, which I think is, by the way, how humans are meant to be at this time of year.
Harvest is over or almost over. So it's now about rest.
Supposed to be, yet we don't function in that way. So it's difficult when you're like, there are things I not only need but want to get done, which is actually my mess today. But last week I went first with our messes. So are you coming with a mess? Because if so, I'd love for you to go first today.
I'd love to hear what you have to say first.
All right. Yeah. I just want people to recognize that I'm not going first because I'm demanding it every time. Okay. Because I feel a little in the spotlight. So here's mine, which I'm uncomfortable to talk about, but I think that's the whole point of all these, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm writing a book, which is exciting. I made the decision and just I don't know, that's how I function. I'll think about things forever sometimes. And then just one day I'm like, fuck it, I'm doing it. And then I just start doing it. And I mean, I've gone whole hog. I'm approaching this in a weird way. I'm writing the book directly into layout instead of writing the book and then formatting it. It works better for my brain. It always has. When I was an editor, I liked to write directly to the layout of the page instead of just writing and then working it in.
What does that mean, writing directly to layout, for those of us who don't know?
In this particular case, part of the reason is because the way I'm approaching this book is not just long form narrative. It's a nonfiction book about liberating your business. It's not just going to be endless chapters of continuous writing. It's going to be broken up into little sidebars and checklists. And there's always going to be a narrative piece that's a personal story.
Mm-hmm.
And then, not to give away too much here, but the format is a narrative that's a personal story related to whatever the topic of the chapter is. And then going into what I'm calling a reality check, which is talking about sort of the white supremacist patriarchal capitalist conditioning involved in whatever the topic is. And the liberatory reframe, which is how do we reframe this narrative in a way that is actually more liberatory instead of contributing to the oppression. And then there's various checklists, this or that, client stories, other kinds of little sidebars. And then there's these micro liberations, things you can do each day to kind of practice this shift for yourself. Conclusion. So that's kind of the setup of every chapter. So it's broken into more pieces instead of just long form. So I'm writing kind of each of those pieces into the actual document, the final layout, the page we sent to, my case, probably Amazon KDP, despite all my issues with Amazon, because it's easier. Okay. So I'm writing it in that way, which is an unusual way, I think, to write a book, but it feels really good to me. As I'm writing this book, I am having, and there's going to be a whole chapter on this, imposter syndrome, right? That is coming up. And the voice that keeps coming in my head as I am writing this, I'm trying not to let it stop me, but it wants to, boy. It really wants to stop me and say, stop. Don't do this, because it's who are you to write this story? Why does the world even need your take on this when there are so many amazing people out there? Adrienne Maree Brown, Emergent Strategy, there's so many amazing books, The Serviceberry, whatever. As I think about what else is out there that's written through a liberatory lens around that talks about business, there's a lot of it out there, right? Written by people who are smarter than me, who have different lived experiences than me, all of that. My book in particular is written through my lens, which I acknowledge in the beginning of the book. Clearly, that's a white lady's lens. It's a privileged lens. And I'm being really mindful to credit and cite and give lots of love inside of each chapter to the people who have taught me and informed my worldview, right? So there's this part of me that's maybe the world needs the book because part of my responsibility with privilege is to shine a light to people who might not otherwise get that light shined on them, to write to people who share a worldview like mine and maybe haven't done some of the work I've done and are more apt to listen to me than the likes of you or Faith, which is problematic. And yet, faith
But
informed me.
still the reality.
Right. The reality is, Faith Clark
Yeah.
reminded me the other day, we had a whole conversation about it of like my shock at hearing, of course, people aren't going to listen to me when I say it as well as they listen to you. And it's like, but you're so much smarter than me. And it's like, that's not the reality of the world. So there's that. But then there's also this part of me that's like, but is it necessary,
Mm.
needed, right? Am I the right person to do it? And is it profiting? Not that I'm going to profit a lot. Let's be honest. It's not like I got a book contract, folks. I'm self-publishing. If I sell 100 books, it will feel like the biggest miracle, right? Like that's my very low goal.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm talking about huge profiting, but am I trying to profit off of or on the backs of folks who have far more intelligence, experience, research, whatever than me? So there is where I'm sitting, Taina. This is the shit that's playing in my head as I'm working on this, and I've been working on it every day. It lights me up. I'm so excited. I'm hyper fixated because I'm really excited and enjoying writing it. And that narrative keeps going in my head, and it feels really messy to navigate. Also, it's not lost on me the irony of talking about white supremacist capitalist conditioning in this book and all of that. And I am, as I'm doing it, dealing with all the same conditioning coming up. So there's my mess of the day. Or actually, lately I think it's going to be the mess of the month and months ahead.
Okay. Can I offer some thoughts?
I would love some thoughts. That's why I shared, even though it's like
Yeah.
deeply uncomfortable for all the reasons it's always
Yeah.
uncomfortable to share shit.
Yeah. I mean, so the first thought I'll share is like this concept of like profiting off of someone else's like work or intelligence. Um, obviously there's such a thing as plagiarism and like co-opting, right?
I am
But
aware of that. My background's journalism, and that's definitely not what we're talking about here. Like, there's
yeah.
heavy citations in this book for all
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
folks
and
who
that's
have.
what I was gonna say. That's what I was gonna say. So, like, knowing what I know about you, I know that you are giving credit where credit is due. And then the other thing with that is like there is no way to talk about these things without it feeling like not without it feeling like, but without sharing other people's ideas about it. And so one thing that I liked about or one thing that has stuck with me from grad school that has helped to shift the way or help me deal a little bit with like imposter syndrome is in grad school, right? Like our professors would assign readings from different authors to be read together. And the whole premise of that was that these ideas are having a conversation with each other. And so I think having that frame of mind when you're writing this is not like you're writing the go to guide, you're contributing to the conversation that's already happening, right? That's the whole premise of like publishing in grad school, right? Is that you're contributing new ideas or you're evolving someone else's ideas, right? You're in conversation with other people that have the same thoughts and the same ideas and whatnot. And so I think it's when you ask, like, who am I to publish this? We're having these conversations all the time. So why not like publish it in a book, right? Because it's a conversation that you're having with the larger audience
I just don't want
about.
to feel Brene Brownie. And listen, I love Brene Brown. I do. And she's talking about things that Black women, Black feminists had talked about long before she
But
talked.
is she crediting them?
Well, and that is probably the bigger issue is that has historically, although I haven't been following her in many years now, as I have done so much of my own unlearning, realizing I could be learning this stuff from the people who informed her instead of her. I think that used to be a problem. I don't know if it still is, so I don't want to speak to that. But
Hmm.
you're right. That is part of it. That's a big issue, right? You're
Yeah.
right. It's the repackaging of ideas as if they're your own ideas. That's
Yeah.
the bigger.
Yeah, and there are no new ideas. There's just like the
That is true.
evolution of ideas. So it's not like obviously plagiarizing and co-opting and things like that are real, but at the same time, like if you're crediting where it's necessary and if someone who you are crediting or someone who you're citing, I feel like if you cited Adrienne Marie Brown and she reached out and would be like, please don't cite my work, you'd be like, okay, like sure, I have to respect your wish, right? Like I don't feel like
Well, but that
you
hurts,
would.
Taina, because I am referencing Adrienne Marie Brown, and I would be like mortified.
Yeah, obviously, but like I think this also goes back to remember in Coach's Circle when we were talking about marketing and like invisibility and the fact that like there's no way to be completely like visible as a business owner or as a thought leader without someone disagreeing with you and someone at some point trying to like call
Yeah.
you out and cancel you.
Yeah.
And then we decided, okay, well, then the best way to deal with that is to expect it, right?
Yeah.
Instead
I
of
think that is part of
not
the
expect
problem.
it.
That may be a bit of what's
But
happening
when
to
you expect it, like, well, what did we do, right? When we said, okay, if you're going to expect it, then what's the next step? The accountability process, right?
uh
So
yeah.
if you have an accountability process set up, then that's all you can do. Your hands are tied.
Yeah, I mean, accountability to me for this does look like citing those I've learned from, where it makes sense, reaching out even because even though I think I own the IP, which is so gross, but, like, I think I wouldn't be in a legal hot water, I don't think, for because I'm gonna be doing these Q&As with people that were guests on my podcast, so it's just repurposing some of that content where it makes sense
Hmm.
to some of the chapters, but I'm gonna reach out to those folks and just make sure they're okay, right? Even
Hmm.
though I think I can, I also wanna be like, "If you don't wanna be in a book and have your likeness represented," and by the way, Taina, get ready for this email from me because 'cause you're one of them. But if you don't want that, like, I get that, right? Like, that feels that's one of the ways I feel like I'm trying to strive for accountability is where it makes sense and where I actually know the people and can do that to reach out and say, "Are you okay with this?" Especially when it's not just referencing your published work, but saying, like, I'm referencing a conversation we had, even though it was a public conversation. Anyway,
Hmm.
so that's part of the accountability, certainly citing people. But you're right, there is a point of when you said that, what immediately came up for me is one of the people that I will be referencing in the book, who is one of my leader or teachers, is Feminista Jones, who we follow each other on Threads. And when I posted I was writing a book, I of course saw she liked it. And I immediately felt this sense of like, oh, good. She probably would never even read it. But if she does, is it gonna be the kind of thing that she thinks, good job, Becky? Like you did
Hmm.
this, right? Or is she gonna be like, another white bitch coming along, right? Whatever. Like just
Yeah.
here we go again with another white person taking and citing my work. And now she's again, I'm not gonna make any money. But you know what I mean? That feeling
Yeah.
that comes up of like, and it's ultimately I can only control what I can control. But
Yeah.
there is that I think inside of some of this imposter syndrome is that feeling of like, what if people I respect, it's one thing when it's random strangers on the
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah.
The people I respect that I care about, you, Faith, other people that like there are people I'm referencing in this book, Adrienne Marie Brown, not that I know her, but what if they have thoughts? What if they think the world didn't need this book or what who was Becky to think that she should have done this? You know what I mean? That like
Yeah.
and it's
Well,
like
if
it
it's
is
a conversation, people will have thoughts, right?
you're right.
But like, I
And
think this,
they should have right to those thoughts.
yeah, but I think this goes back to just like just the core of humanity, like our humanity, right? Of wanting to be seen, but then that fear of rejection when it
Mm,
comes to being seen. And so that's what I'm hearing right now.
yeah.
It's like there's all these people that you respect and that you will be in conversation with
Yeah.
as you write this book. But if they reject it, then what does that mean for you?
It like, even just yeah, there's clearly stuff there that I also have to sit with and, like, work with myself through because just when you say it, I'm like, I can feel the pain of that, of like, "Oh god, I'm not I don't want that to happen," but also I can't please everyone. I can do the things, again, like you said, with accountability. I can do the things that are within my control to show up in the way that I want to show up in the world as ethically, as generously, as reciprocally, like all the
Mhm.
things the ways that I want to show up in the world. I can do those to the best of my ability. And I don't get to, and here's probably some of that white supremacist conditioning coming in. I don't get to control how others receive it. And
Mhm.
I think I can feel that wanting to, like wanting to be like, no, I wanna do whatever it takes to make sure you like me, right? And that I wanna
Yeah.
control that, and I don't get to. And I think that is what's scary for people listening too, just like putting anything that we're putting out in the world.
Yeah.
I think that is scary. It's really scary to release that and just to say to be able to sit with like, I've done what I can. I am in
Mhm.
a place of feeling good and still leaving space for if someone was to come and say, here are my thoughts, that conversation, and I learn and recognize I could have done differently, like leaving space for that accountability, but also at some point having to just be like, I have to just be okay with the fact that I don't get to control how
Yeah.
other people receive something. And
Yeah.
that's really hard. It's really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the catch of like being seen.
Mhm.
It's like there's the good parts that feel amazing, that feel really validating, but then there's also having to contend with that
Right.
fear of rejection.
The threat of the bad, which
Mhm.
you truly, I think for most of us, if we can look with a critical lens, doesn't happen very often. right? That worst
Yeah.
case, that scary stuff doesn't usually even happen. We're afraid of it, but it doesn't really happen very often. So the good almost always outweighs the bad. And yet we give such space to the bad
Yeah.
that we let it almost taint the good. So yeah, I mean, I know that this is going to be something I'm going to have to just like continue to contend with through this whole process. And the big work for me is to not let it shut me down because
Yeah.
I can feel that wanting to come up of just being like, is it even worth it? Like, why? Like all of that. And maybe I need to get a little more grounded in my why too.
Mm.
The why I think feels a bit selfish, and maybe that's the other piece.
Why does it feel selfish?
And fucking hell, there it is, Taina, because also I can point right now, my mind immediately goes to things I've been writing about selfish and greedy and all of these things that we've been conditioned, especially I think as women, to feel when we do something that centers our own desires. Because
Mhm.
a lot of my why is centering my desires, not all of
Mhm.
it, but a lot of it
Mhm.
is. It is in service of like, I want to be able to be on more shows, like podcasts
Mhm.
and things. I want to have, I want to have more people like asking me to be in those conversations you're talking about, right? And a book is one of those things that often opens some of those doors and allows for some of that to happen. That feels like saying it out loud right now feels gross and selfish and icky, and I need to contend with that because it's okay. It's okay to want
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
especially if I'm doing it.
I
I
also
think. Oh, go ahead.
and I was gonna say, I also don't think that's the end of your why.
Well,
Like,
it's
I think
not. You're right.
sometimes like, because sure, that's why, but then if you ask, "Well, why do you want to be on those podcasts? Why do you want people to ask you, and why
Right.
do you want to be having these conversations?" Well, it's because you're a business owner,
Yeah, and I
and
want
this
it
is
to
part of your
benefit
business.
my business, but I want it to benefit our business with Messy Liberation. I want to
Mhm.
benefit the business I run with Faith and Feminist Founders. I want it to benefit the Feminist Podcasters Collective, which benefits not just me, but the entire group of the people inside of that space. And I want it to benefit these conversations, right? Like I want it to
Yeah.
be a benefit of business, doing business in a more ethical, human first way.
Mhm.
So all of that does feel like a better why. And also, word of the year for 2026 is curation. I want to better curate my own life, but I also want to better show up as a curator for others, to be seen as that person
Mhm.
that people can trust as a curator, to say, I trust that you are going to bring together voices that need to be heard, that I'm going to want to hear. I'm going to trust that
Mhm.
if I'm in space and in collaboration with you, it's going to be something really enriching because you're going to bring together all of these people that will, the collective creates a better experience for all of us. Like
Mhm.
that's how I want to show up. And this book also, in the way I'm trying to approach it, feels like a curated experience because it
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
It's my voice, but like I'm looking over there, the stack of like 20 books
Yeah.
plus
Yeah.
that I'm referencing and pulling from, and like all of the knowledge that I'm bringing into that space and citing. And it's like it's this curated experience
Mm.
for people who don't have time to read all 20 or 30 of
20
these
of those
books,
books.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So there is that why. And you're right. And so I think I need to do a little better at like holding that for myself so
Yeah.
that when that voice comes up.
Yeah.
This is I don't know if I like our new format, Taina, because this feels a little vulnerable. It's a lot easier to talk about why Trump's an asshole than it is to talk about my own shits.
I hear you. I hear you. This morning, I was like, "What's my mess?" And I'm like, I don't know. What am I gonna
Well,
talk
we were
about?"
supposed to report back on last week's mess really quickly. I just want to say the school board thing didn't even happen. So if you listened last
Yeah.
week and I said I was going to go to the school board, drama, like a teacher apparently called the media. The principal got, I think, scolded. Not that that was the exact word used, but I believe that's kind of what happened. I think the principal was kind of like, whoa, this is going to actually potentially cause more harm than good. So let's back off and rethink about it. I went to the PTO meeting last night. The principal kind of made it clear, like, there are some things happening in the background. I'm going to report as I can, but let's
Mhm.
be mindful of the politics of this situation was
Mhm.
sort of the message. And so
Mhm.
that's my update. Was first I was not going to be, I was told I wouldn't be speaking after we talked. And then within another hour or two, I found out none of us were doing it. And it was
Yeah.
all, so there's my update.
Yeah.
Did Mello hear your conversation?
I think she's listened to last week's
Yeah,
episode,
it was
yeah.
on YouTube. I don't think it's been out yet. Yeah.
But I will say I did also talk to my therapist about what we discussed on last week's episode of the podcast, and she gave me some really good perspective in terms of like, because I think what I was struggling with, or one of the things I was struggling with was like, as I said last week, I'm an incredibly detached person from other people. And so there's always a part of me that's like, well, your feelings are not my responsibility, right? Like that's for you to deal with. And I can take that to extreme levels, right? That's a truth, that's a fact. But
Absolutely.
when you're in a partnership, it kind of is part of your responsibility,
I
right?
fully understand this.
So it's a shared experience that you're having with people, whether it's a partner or a friend or, even like a coworker, us together, right, as business partners. So one thing that my therapist said was like, well, where you can draw the line is like, are you adding to the feelings or are you like keeping the boundary with like where the feelings are, right? Like if you're contributing to those feelings, then that's something that you have to, like if something you're doing or saying is contributing to those feelings, then that's your responsibility. But if you're doing your best to like not contribute to any kind of like feelings or whatnot, then it's the other person's responsibility to manage their feelings. And I thought that was a really good way to frame that. So that's my update.
Okay. Well, we have a little bit of time left for your mess.
Yeah.
So
So
what
my
has
mess.
anything come to you? Or and by the way, it doesn't have to be your mess. We also talked about these messes can be it could be a mess you observed
Yeah.
externally. It doesn't have to be your
Yeah.
specific mess.
So my mess, my wife and I were actually talking about this over the weekend about the news about Trump giving Bill Clinton a BJ.
My husband has been very obsessed with that story and talking about it nonstop. And the truth is, I've seen nothing about it other than what he keeps telling me.
Yeah.
So I know it's
Yeah.
out there somewhere in the ether, but it's not really showing up in my like
Well,
curate.
they're doing a really good job at like controlling controlling the media, right,
Well,
output about it, I
can
think.
you tell me then as because I love my husband, if you're listening, I love you. And I don't always I think sometimes I'm just like he's like telling me these things and they're funny and like I don't know where he could be getting the information from like who knows where.
Yeah.
So is there enough like what feels potentially credible
Yes.
or stuff
Yes.
behind this that
Yes. It was
I
all over
gotta say,
TikTok
that's
for like
true. It
24
is
hours.
that's beyond shocking to me, actually. And there's
Yeah.
very little that shocks me about Trump anymore.
Yeah.
But that really does shock me given his narcissistic nature. It does feel a little, I don't know, it doesn't feel like him.
Yeah, I mean, I will preface this by saying I haven't done my research here. I
Yeah,
am
and look
just
also like wild rumors, allegedly, all the things that keep us from getting sued.
yeah, allegedly Trump gave Bill Clinton a BJ, but it
We're
was
talking
all over
decades ago at
TikTok.
this point, right? Decades ago?
It was all over TikTok a few days ago. If it's true, one thing my wife said that made sense to me was like, she said it makes sense because he really does hate women.
That does make
And
sense.
so, and
I
it's
think
like,
often when we see these really deeply misogynistic men, and I'm not saying this is the case here, allegedly, blah, 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 but often we find out they are they are often
in the closet.
unable to come to terms with their own feelings of whether it is, I am gay, I'm bi, whatever, but these feeling of attraction towards men. And the only way they can kind of shut that down is to feel more quote unquote manly. And how do they do that? But by objectifying, belittling, all of that around women.
Yeah.
And so I'm always deeply suspicious of men that are that blatantly misogynistic. I mean, I don't know if they recognize
Yeah.
that, but I think most women, that's one of the first thoughts that we have. And more evolved men, like I think our thoughts immediately go to that with a lot of men like that.
It's like, "Are you in the closet?" Yeah. I think it's because, it's a power thing, right? Like, we're conditioned that in this society that, like, being masculine means being powerful, and being masculine and powerful means having power over women. And so, if you equate homosexuality with being effeminate, then that means you are seen as weak, you are seen as less powerful. You see gay men as being feminine, right? Or you feminize gay men, and then that means that you treat them like women in your eyes. So if you
Right.
feel like you are gay, then there's self-hatred there.
Right. And like, let's be clear, homophobia amongst men in particular is shares its roots, if not has a I mean, it is not exactly the same as misogyny. That's
Yeah.
what that homophobia is about. It is
Yeah.
about hating femininity and
Yeah.
being perceived as somebody who could potentially be feminine,
Yeah.
which by the way,
Yeah. So how do you take your power back, right? You
right.
become hypermasculine, you objectify women, you belittle them. womanize, right? You rape them, right? Like you
Right.
put them in their place. And so,
And
yeah,
not
but
even
yeah, that
women either, by the way. Like, you do that with women and girls, as we've learned from the Epstein situation, because these are not I'm right now, I don't know about you, but fucking furious with all of the media outlets that keep talking about young underage women is what they keep calling them, underage women. You're not
they're
a woman when
girls.
you're underage, right? Call them what they are, call them girls, but they're again, it's this way of controlling and shifting the
Yeah,
narrative that is infuriating. And this is all
yeah,
part and parcel with that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I like when I first started seeing the TikToks, I was just like, what the hell? Like,
Did you ever have that suspicion around Bill Clinton? Like, okay, because we've talked about all the reasons why maybe it adds up with
yeah,
Trump, but again, there's a difference, I suppose. There's not. There is probably a perceived difference amongst the men of being receiver versus
versus
giver.
giver. Yeah, yeah.
Again, all of this is so. This whole conversation is so like
It's
heteronormative
just
and
uh,
homophobic, and like I just want to make sure like this is not how we perceive
no.
these things, but how I could see they might. But I did think like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, but also
I
Bill's
mean,
also a piece
when
of
the whole
shit.
Monica Lewinsky thing happened, right? One of his defenses was that he was a sex addict. I remember that very clearly. So I'm just like, well, I mean, if it's true that he's a sex addict, then that makes sense. Like, I think people who have an addiction to sexual acts, like, it doesn't matter where you're getting it from, right? It's about the release. But
Yeah,
then
but
I
there's also
also,
still there's something with that. Oh, okay, that was sorry, that you're talking men versus women, because I
mhm.
was back on Epstein girls, and that there is a difference there, but that's not what you're yeah, got it.
No, no, I'm talking yeah.
Yeah.
But then I also thought, I was like, God, I really fucking feel bad for Monica Lewinsky.
I have felt bad for Monica Lewinsky. I literally, like, every day of my life since 1990, whatever
Yeah.
that was. 2?
I was like,
1?
she had her mouth on the same thing Donald Trump allegedly had his mouth
Well,
on.
she got it first, so he had her sloppy seconds, I guess, although I don't know if we know the timeline.
I don't know the timeline, but either
So
way,
maybe.
that's like,
Do you know how many mouths have probably been in that space?
but Donald Trump.
Well, I mean, that's
It's like this. It's like what, like the 6 or 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's like now you're connected to this person in that way.
unfortunately, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've ever listened to like Monica's podcast, follow her on social or anything. I haven't really listened to much of her podcast. I've listened to one episode. I do follow her on social media. And I like her. Like I
Yeah.
really feel like she came out of that situation. She was so fucking mistreated.
Hmm.
Everything about that, like, talk about a wrong that needs to be righted, right? Like, especially in the wake of everything that's going on with Epstein and all of this, like, God, all of us owe her the deepest apologies. And listen,
Yeah.
it's not like in the grand scheme of wrongs in the world, it's not, there's many others, right? But just that whole situation, she was treated exactly, although honestly, it's what's happening now with a lot of these Epstein victims, calling them,
Yeah.
underage
Underage
women.
women.
And
Yeah.
Monica was, if that had happened post Me Too, I think it would be viewed so differently
Hmm.
because just the power dynamics at play and the
Yeah.
fact that that was so very little of the narrative at the time. Like
Yeah.
that's just not something that we talked about. And I don't know, I really hope the fact that Trump got enough pressure he had to turn around and say, okay, release the files, and that enough Republicans felt safe to vote in that way. I'm hoping maybe, I mean, I know.
They're all gonna be redacted. It's gonna be so redacted.
I know. I know.
It's not really gonna tell us anything.
And I watched a video with that Dean whatever his name is. He's an idiot too, but he's one of these guys who gets on YouTube and fights Republicans and conservatives and MAGA people because he's, more progressive. But there was somebody who called into his show and was like, so tell me what's wrong with having sex with underage women, right? So what's
Excuse
wrong with
me?
having sex with girls? And he was like, is that your question? You want me to say why it's not okay? And he's like, yeah. Why is it not okay? This is like a Trump defender. And this is, I mean, you look at what Megyn Kelly's doing too. Like, this is the path they're taking, which is we now are going to dare you
Normalize it, yeah.
get to normalize this behavior. And the fact that there are so few people who see that that's so fucked up, and that one of them is Marjorie Taylor Greene, like that she's now the voice of reason, which makes my head want to explode.
Yeah.
Like, I hope we can come out of this in a different place. I don't know that we can, but
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah.
maybe.
I think some of that is just playing chicken, right?
Yeah.
And I think some of it is just people just don't understand the concept of consent, like what that means. Like you can't
No,
consent if there's a power differential.
they do not. We don't teach enough about consent for
Yeah.
sure, and that is a problem. Do you
Yeah.
think that MAGA men, if they actually had a video, I know it doesn't exist, whatever. This is now very hypothetical, allegedly hypothetical, all that. But if there were a video to come out of clearly Trump, clearly Bill Clinton, clearly not AI, of this act happening, would that be enough for his crazies, to his cult, to finally say, this is a bridge too far for me? I know that the having sex with young girls isn't going to do it, but could
Yeah.
that be the thing? I don't know.
Maybe for a small handful, but my question to that is like, clearly to who? Like there's the ignorance is so willful sometimes that people see and hear what they want to.
Yeah.
So you can show
yeah.
someone all the proof that this video has not been doctored, it's not AI, like it's real, and they will still say, no, that's fake. It's
Fake
a deep
news.
fake.
Well, I mean, Trump
Yeah.
has done a great job of that, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I don't even want to say anything that sounds remotely like I'm praising him, but I will say,
No, he's an
I don't know
excellent
if he's
con artist.
intelligent, but he has, I don't know. He is what a classic cult leader is. He's
Yeah.
really good at narratives. He's really good at mind fuckery. He has,
Yeah.
and planting those seeds so early on, because
Yeah.
that whole planting the fake news thing, which he's been doing for 20 years now, it really comes to play. And
Yeah.
you sit there and think, is it because he was smart enough to know, and he's been playing long chess, which is what his people want you to believe. He's been playing this long chess game and planting all these seeds, knowing eventually this stuff was going to come out. So if I start with the fake news early, then by the time
No, I don't think he's
anyone,
smart enough for that.
I don't think so either.
He's
I
a
don't want to
pawn. I
believe
think
it.
someone else is maybe smart enough to have done that, and
Even more?
he's the
Steve
pawn.
Bannon?
But
I don't know. Steve Bannon? I don't know.
I haven't heard that name in forever. God, please.
He's in the files. Okay. It's so gross. And there's really
It
nothing there
is.
except pure mess. It's just such a mess. And the part that to me is the most upsetting about all of it is how normalized so much of this
Yeah.
disgusting,
Yeah.
vile.
Yeah. And the
behavior
difference,
is.
and I just want to say, like, yes, we're messy. The name of our show is Messy Liberation. The name of our membership is the Messy Liberation Coaches Circle. They're messy, right? But the
Yeah.
difference is like this mess is a creative process. That mess is an implosion, like a devolution,
Well,
a
right. Our mess is
regressive
mess
tactic.
towards progress.
Yes.
This is a
Yeah.
mess erasing progress.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know what you do with that, except just in some places, it's like you just have to find your people. And I don't know if you and Mello have been having a good laugh at it. And by the way, like if you see people having a good laugh at this, it's because sometimes that's the only thing that will keep you from going
Yes.
crazy. Because that's where my head is often at, where I'm
Yeah.
just like, it makes you so angry. It starts to make you feel like literally like I've lost my mind. Sometimes you just have to laugh to
Yeah.
survive.
Yeah.
And I do feel like maybe some of that's what this is. It's just like,
Yeah.
give us something to at least
Yeah.
laugh at.
Yeah. It's like I can be angry about this, but I can also laugh about it. Like it's called nuance, people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what mess is, right? Really, by
Mhm.
mess, we mean nuance, and that's not
Mhm.
something people understand. All right, well, this was an interesting one too.
Yeah.
Sorry about the technical glitches. We'll see how much of that gets edited out, but also some of the stuff gets left in because I don't want to spend hours on end editing all the little things. It's
Yeah.
like, what you
It
get, you
is
don't
what it
throw
is.
a fit, as my kids' kindergarten teacher taught, and that has been our favorite saying that any teacher has ever given us. You get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. Okay. It was
We'll
good
see
to
you guys next week.
Bye. Thanks for listening to Messy Liberation.
Thank you so much for your support and for listening today.
Until next time.